So, if you've ever touched games like Chivalry, Mordhau, or even dipped your toes into survival sandboxes like Rust, this one's going to feel like a weird love child of both. On one side, you've got deep medieval melee combat that makes you question every swing of your sword. On the other, you've got survival mechanics where you start with practically nothing, just a stick and a dream, and somehow need to survive in a world full of armored maniacs, raiding parties, and siege weapons. The big question though, is it worth playing based on what we've seen in the demo? At first glance, the combat in Renown might look simple. You swing a sword, block an attack, maybe throw in a stab here and there. Easy, right? Not even close. Once you actually start learning the mechanics, you realize there's a ton of depth. There are things like drags and excels, which sound like bad energy drinks but actually refer to how you manipulate the timing of your swings. Then there's parrying, morphing attacks, and even feints. But unlike Chivalry 2, where feints can sometimes feel cheesy, Renown balances them out by making the recovery window longer. That means spamming fake attacks won't save you. Your mix-ups and swing manipulation matter way more. What really makes the combat stand out is how much it leans into skill. You're not just relying on good gear or stats, you actually need to read your opponent, outsmart them, and time everything properly. And yes, if you're good enough, you can take on multiple players at once. Thanks to stamina gain on kills and a strong parry system, 1vx fights are actually possible here, which is something fans of melee slashers have been begging for. Sure, animations in the alpha build look a little janky sometimes, but the devs are already improving readability. You'll still have to get good to survive, but at least you won't lose a duel because you couldn't tell if that was an overhead or a weird drag gone wrong. Now let's talk about the survival side. If you've played Rust, you'll know the drill. You spawn in with nothing, start chopping down trees, mining rocks, and eventually put together some gear and a base. Except in Renown, instead of AKs and grenades, you're rocking swords, bows, and trebuchets. This is where things get really interesting. In survival games, one of the most frustrating parts is when a fully geared player steamrolls you 5 minutes after you spawn. The devs are trying to avoid that. Gear matters, sure. Someone in full plate is going to have a better shot than someone in cloth, but skill still plays a huge role. With enough practice, you can outplay better geared opponents, which makes the early grind feel less punishing. On top of that, it's full loot. If you die, you lose everything you were carrying. No magical inventory protection, no safe stash in your back pocket, just raw consequences. That's brutal, but it also makes every fight matter, and it adds real weight to raiding and defending. Base building is another huge part of Renown. Think of it as medieval Rust, where instead of metal doors and turrets, you've got stone walls, wooden palisades, and maybe a murder hole or two. You'll be able to build in tiers, likely thatch, wood, stone, maybe brick, with higher tiers being much tougher to raid. And how do you raid? Forget C4. Here, it's trebuchets, catapults, battering rams, and other lovely medieval toys. The stronger someone's base, the more resources you'll need to take it down. So while your neighbor's twig hut might be breakable with an axe, a proper stone fortress is going to need a siege. It's a neat balance. Defenses feel meaningful, but they're not invincible. And because it's full loot, raiding actually matters. Take someone's base and you're not just flexing, you're walking away with their hard-earned stuff. There's also a unique game mode that stands out, Raid Mode. Imagine Minecraft Bed Wars, but medieval. Two teams spawn on opposite sides of a big map with resources in the middle. You get 10 minutes of peace to build up your base, craft weapons, and prep defenses. After that, all-out war. The goal is simple. Destroy the enemy's banner using siege weapons and brute force. It's chaotic, it's strategic, and honestly, it might end up being the most competitive and fun mode in the whole game. The survival sandbox is great, but raid mode feels like the kind of thing you can play over and over without burnout. One of the biggest killers of survival games is empty servers. Atlas, Last Oasis, even Reign of Kings back in the day, they all struggled with this. The good news is that Renown is keeping things smaller. Servers will support around 80 to 120 players, which might sound low compared to Rust's 500-player chaos, but the maps are designed around that number. That means you'll actually run into people, but you won't get zerged every 5 minutes by a clan of 50. There's also talk of wipe cycles, similar to Rust. Whether that ends up being every few weeks or every month isn't clear yet, but the idea is to keep things fresh and prevent servers from becoming graveyards of unraidable fortresses. Add in voice chat, proximity chat, and even the potential for modding and private servers, and there's a lot of flexibility in how players can shape their experience. And let's be honest, half the fun of these games isn't even the combat, it's the weird interactions you have with other players. One second you're negotiating peace, the next you're screaming insults while someone smacks your head in with a mace. Another thing worth mentioning is customization. Armor, weapons, and characters all have a decent amount of visual variety. You're not locked into looking like every other knight out there. While there isn't a skill tree system planned, death wipes your progress entirely, you'll be able to express yourself through gear and builds. It's simple, but it fits the hardcore survival approach the devs are aiming for. So is Renown worth playing based on the demo? If you like survival games but hate how guns usually dominate the endgame, this is a refreshing change. It's the same brutal lose everything when you die formula, but flavored with medieval combat and siege warfare. If you're a fan of games like Chivalry or Mordhau, the combat here feels like a natural extension, with enough skill expression to keep duels exciting and teamfights chaotic in a good way. On the flip side, this is still going to be an early access survival game. That means bugs, balance issues, and probably a lot of rage-inducing wipes. Animations still need polish, server caps could feel small to some players, and survival mechanics won't be for everyone. If you hate losing progress, this might not be your cup of mead. But the potential is definitely there. Between the unique raid mode, the mix of survival and melee combat, and the developer's focus on balancing skill and gear, Renown could carve out a solid spot in the genre. Whether it actually delivers long-term will depend on updates and community support, but as a demo, it's a strong start. And that's a look at Renown based on the demo. Whether you're into medieval combat, survival chaos, or epic base raids, this game has a lot to offer. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, stick around for more honest reviews and gameplay breakdowns. Catch you in the next one.